Hello and welcome back to the Training Tom podcast, the place where I share how I'm training myself to navigate life. And in today's episode, I'm talking about the concept of the sticky middle. So let's dive into it. This episode feels very relevant for the time that I'm in with this podcast, or the stage that I'm in with this podcast, but also the stage that I'm in other areas of life as well. Perhaps the stage that I'm in with work, the stage that I'm in with my training at the moment, you could say as well. And yeah, it's all seeming, I'm going to say coincidental is not the right word, but all of the kind of ambitions that I have and the goals that I'm working towards at the moment have all hit this stage. Have all hit this stage recently. And I've had to really remind myself of what I'm doing these things for, and also where my priorities are as well. So the concept of the sticky middle is when you have a goal that you're striving towards, and I don't know whether anybody has experienced this before, but it's a concept that I'm very familiar with the different exercise goals I've had and the different sporting goals that I've had. Even possibly some work-related goals as well. It's this concept of the sticky middle, where when you initially start a goal, you're very excited, you have lots of enthusiasm. The realization of what you're trying to achieve doesn't really sink in, and you go through a period of time, and that period of time can differ for everybody, where the excitement of starting that new goal and the excitement of what you might achieve in the future carries you for a period of time. And then there always gets to, or in my experience anyway, there always gets to a point in trying to achieve that goal where there's a realization that the excitement has worn off, but you're still really far away from what you want to try and achieve. And you get caught in what I've heard referred to as the sticky middle, where you essentially have a choice. You have a choice of, do you continue striving towards your goal, not knowing whether you're going to achieve it, not knowing if all the work that you've put in at this moment in time is successful, if it will be successful, if the aspirations you have possibly are even achievable, or you stop what you're doing altogether and just forget about the goal, which is kind of a scary thing to think about, because you have so much excitement when you think about a goal that you want to achieve. And it can be really difficult to be in that sticky middle phase, because you might have support from family and friends, and at first all of that support is really good, like people are egging you on, and then you've been doing it striving towards that goal for a period of time, and maybe the support kind of wavers off and tails off, and people know that you're still working towards that goal, but there's less enthusiasm on all sides. So there's less enthusiasm from you, there's less enthusiasm from them perhaps, and it just makes this period of not knowing what this goal is going to be, not knowing where you're at in this process of achieving the goal perhaps, is really challenging. And another way to view it is almost like this false peak, where you climb up a mountain or you climb up a hill, and when you get to the top of that hill, that's almost like you're approaching that sticky middle phase. So the excitement at the start gets you going and you work your way up the hill. And then all of a sudden you hit this plateau and you think, oh, maybe I've reached the summit. Maybe this is as far as I'm going to go. And then all of a sudden you realize that there's 5 other peaks ahead of you. And you get caught in this moment of, oh man, I could turn back right now. Go back to the bottom of the hill where I was at and be comfortable with where I managed to get to. Or you carry on and you try to hit that next milestone or that next peak. And I feel like I'm at that stage with the podcast, if I'm totally honest. I've been working on this all year so far, and at the start of the year I had loads of enthusiasm, I had loads of ideas, loads of things that I wanted to talk about, and I covered off some of those things at the start of the year and in the first probably like 12 episodes. And I had a really good plan and I recorded my episodes in a manageable way so that I could make sure that I was getting episodes recorded on time and I didn't feel like I was under pressure to record episodes. But I've reached that point where, and this is just me being brutally honest because I feel like it's important to share, where I'm in that sticky middle phase where I've got so far with the podcast, and really it's not that far at all in the grand scheme of things. Like, this is episode 17 off the top of my head. And the past few weeks have been challenging to find the time to record the episodes, to think about different things to discuss as well, because I have lots of things that I want to discuss. But I also perhaps need to be comfortable with sharing those things with people that I care about first before I share them with the rest of the world. Or I've got to push myself outside of my comfort zone even further. And maybe I'm just not prepared to do that just yet. So I've got aspirations for this podcast and I've got a long-term vision of what it could turn into. But I'm stuck in this middle stage at the moment where I don't know necessarily what the immediate future looks like for this. And that's really hard to come to terms with because I genuinely believe this could turn into something incredible that can be really supportive for people, that can perhaps shed a light on what it's like striving to achieve different goals and how challenging it can be. Because, like I've mentioned on different episodes before, it can be really easy to look at people achieving goals and go, they haven't had to deal with any adversity, they haven't had to deal with any challenges, they've made it look easy. And for us to then think, well, if it's easy for them, it must just be because that's the way that they are. And I genuinely don't think that is the case. I don't think it is the case that we're born with innate abilities to achieve certain goals or to do certain things. I very much believe that everything in life is a skill that can be learned. And for some people, it's easier to learn those skills perhaps, but I don't think it's impossible for everybody to learn those skills. Now that's a little bit of a tangent, but it's just always the way, or I say it always, it's the way in recent years, I'd say the past 10 years that I've tried to approach my life, is that everything is a skill. Like I said with the labels episode, you might label yourself as not being very creative or not being musical, but everybody that has gone on to be successful in the music industry or gone on to be successful in a creative art has had to practice and they've had to craft and hone their skill. The same with sports people. Every sports person has had to hone their skill and learn to be better, and they had to start at somewhere. Had to start somewhere, and that somewhere could have been the same place that you're starting at the moment. If I look at different podcasters, for some people, I might look at them and go, oh, well, it's easy for them because of the following that they've got on YouTube or the following that they've got through their Instagram. And they can instantly create a following because they've already got that following if they were to release a podcast. But they also had to start from somewhere. They had to start from a place where they didn't have a following, and they grew their following. They grew their influence, you could say. And I don't know whether I'm spreading myself too thin and trying to have fingers in lots of different pies and seeing which one works, or whether I should just dial in on one thing and just knuckle down on that one area. Because if I think about what I'm doing at the moment, I definitely have my fingers in lots of different pies, and I'm trying to spread my energy across all of those areas. But it means that I'm only giving a small percentage of what I could be giving to those things and those different areas. But then I also, when I was thinking about this episode and when I was making my notes, came to the realization that maybe it doesn't even matter. Not the podcast, but maybe it doesn't matter that I'm spreading myself thin and I've got my fingers in lots of different pies. Because maybe that's just what your 20s are all about. And just because other people are dialing into their relationship or dialing into their work and trying to create a future for themselves that is the future that they want, doesn't mean that I have to do the same thing. And it basically comes down to all of the things that I've spoken about so far in this podcast, in that perceptions that I have of other people, the perceptions that I have of myself, the labels that I place on myself, the anxieties that I hold, the core beliefs that I hold, the perfectionism episode that I spoke about, everything that I've spoken about so far has all been things that I've said I'm trying to work on. But honestly, sometimes I just don't have the mental energy to block those thoughts out. I don't have the energy to be positive all the time. I don't have the energy to feel like I'm making progress. And I just think at this moment in time, that's where I'm at. I'm at a point where work is starting to get busier and things are picking up, which means that I'm having to spend more of my energy focusing on work. I'm still training for an Ironman and I want to do that justice. So that requires a lot of time and energy, not just from a training perspective, but from a planning perspective, from a nutritional perspective, from a sleep and recovery perspective, which I've not been sleeping properly recently and I've not been getting enough sleep. So all of these things are building up. I'm dating somebody as well, and I'm really enjoying dating this person. And I want to put the time and the energy into this person so that I can see where it can go. And I don't want to... I want to be flexible so that I can make time for this person and I can basically try and fit everything in, like I've spoken about in other episodes. I'm trying to do everything, and I'm not being very compassionate and very kind to myself. And again, I've gone off on like a tangent, but basically the whole thing that I was talking about is that maybe that's not a problem. I'm 27 years old. I'm going to be 28 in June. And maybe it doesn't matter that I'm trying to do all these different things at the moment, because maybe that's what your 20s are for, is just doing lots of different things, meeting new people, trying different relationships, and just trying to figure out what you want your life to look like. And maybe at this moment in time, that's why it feels like I'm in this sticky middle place, because I don't know what I want my life to look like. I don't know what that future is going to be. And as somebody who worries a lot about the future, as somebody who thinks and spends far too much time in their head, as I'm sure a lot of people do, not knowing what the future is going to hold automatically makes me overthink, automatically makes me feel a lot more anxious than normal. If I then compound that with not sleeping properly, then it means that I have less energy, I'm not recovered, I'm more irritable with my family, and everything feels like it gets on top of me. And then I have thoughts like this, where I think, what's the point in all of this? Maybe I should just give it all up and just focus on work and just stop trying to be perfect and stop trying to be everything for everyone. I don't even know. I don't even know what I'm talking about at the moment. I'm just rambling, I guess. Yeah. Maybe this episode is less about the sticky middle, or maybe it is just me. Maybe this episode is more for me than it is for anybody else, just so that I can actually hear myself talk and hear what I'm saying and realise, like, come to my own conclusions about everything that I'm doing, because I don't think what I'm doing is wrong. I'm not going to stop this podcast because I'm very passionate about it. I want to help people. That's always been one of my values, is I want to help people. And I feel like this podcast is a medium for me to be able to help people. Even if, like, people just listening to this might help them realise that it doesn't matter if you've not got it figured out. I do not have anything figured out at the moment, and hopefully that's come across in the podcast episodes. Maybe it hasn't. Maybe I have painted this picture that I've got life figured out and everything's hunky-dory and I'm the pinnacle of what people should be trying to achieve, but I don't have it figured out. I really don't. I don't have it figured out at all, and hopefully this episode confirms that, because, yeah, I'm going to be 28 in a month and 9 days. Or when this episode gets released, it'll be a month and 6 days. And I don't have it figured out yet. I don't think I'll ever figure it out. I was speaking to my mentor about this earlier in the week, and nobody's ever got it figured out. We never get to a point where we've cracked life and we have a sudden realization that this is what life is meant to be like, and this is the life that we've succeeded at life, we've won at life. I don't think that ever comes. So maybe that's what I'm getting hung up on at the moment, is I'm waiting for that point of realization where I go, I figured it out. The light bulb has turned on and all of a sudden I've figured it out. Because it's not going to happen. I'm never going to figure this out. I'm going to learn and I'm going to try and grow as an individual. But everything I do, I don't think I'm ever going to figure it out. That's a really clear realization for me just from talking through my thoughts at the moment. and talking through what I think this sticky middle patch looks like is that I don't have anything figured out at the moment, and I don't think I ever will. And that can either scare the crap out of me, or I can just accept it and I can learn to love the grind, learn to love the journey, rather than trying to figure anything out, rather than trying to hit this point of realization. Maybe I just need to accept that it's never going to come, and that's okay. It doesn't matter if you don't get anything figured out. Just keep doing what feels right at the time, providing it's not unhealthy for you, obviously. Like, if it feels right to start taking recreational drugs, maybe that's not a good thing to do. I'm talking more about healthy behaviours, like, work. If you're working quite hard and you don't know where it's going and you feel a bit stuck at work, then it's okay. I don't feel like you've got to have it all figured out right now. Maybe you just need to take a bit of time to cruise, to settle into a rhythm. Maybe you've been sat in that rhythm for a while, so maybe it is time to do something different. Maybe it is time to start exploring new things. And again, it's easy for me to say that from the position that I'm in. I don't have a mortgage, I don't have a family to look after. But even if I did have a family and things to look after, would I say that I'd got life figured out? No, not in the slightest. So, yeah. This episode has turned into more of a ramble, but it's been useful for me. It might not have been useful for you, but it's been really useful for me. So hopefully next episode will come back a bit more cheery and a bit more positive. But right now it just feels challenging. And I'm trying to figure life out. But what I've realised through this episode is I don't need to figure it out. Maybe I just need to accept life is happening right now. It's happening very quickly. Things are moving in different directions. I'm being pulled in all sorts of different directions. But you know what? That's okay. Because I'll figure it out. I'll find a way to make it work. And there's always what I've said this year in particular. In fact, definitely the past couple of months, because there has been a lot more, or many more. There have been a few more elements to consider that I wasn't anticipating considering this year. But I'll figure it out. And if I don't figure it out, then it's also okay. That's the thing. I'm not trying to figure it out. I will just make it work. I'll make it work and I'll see what happens. Yeah. Let's do that. If you feel like you're in a similar position at the moment, you know what? Let's just make it work the best that we can and see what happens. Because regardless of what happens, on a positive way to finish this episode, I can almost guarantee you will learn something from the situation and the experiences that you're in right now. In fact, it's not an almost guarantee. I do guarantee you will learn something from the situation you're in right now or the experiences that you're having at this moment in time. And that's something positive to end on, is that what I've spoken about in this episode, I'm going to learn from it in the future. It might feel challenging and it might feel uncomfortable and it might feel rubbish at this moment in time, but I'm going to learn. And that is the whole essence of growth mindset. Growth mindset is all about learning. There's no success or failure, there's just growth. And that is how I'm going to finish this episode. There's no success or failure, there is just growth. My name's been Tom Regan. My name has been Tom Regan. No, my name is Tom Regan. If you can't tell, I know I mentioned it already. Not been sleeping very well recently. I need to have an early night tonight. My name is Tom Regan. This is the Training Tom podcast. And thank you for listening.